Well, hello and welcome back to Promises Kept. And today's promise of God, which is number 105 out of our 150 that we're looking at. And today's promise of God is found in a book of the Bible I don't think we've been in yet. This is the book of Joshua. And in case you don't know, Joshua is the one who winds up taking all of the Israelites who have been wandering around in the wilderness for 40 years. He's the one that takes them into the promised land. And maybe you knew that. I'm glad if you did, but some people think that Moses took them into the promised land, but he didn't. It's Joshua. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But here we are in the book of Joshua, the first book outside of the Torah. The Torah is considered to be the first 5 books of the Hebrew Scriptures of the Old Testament. That's Genesis and Exodus and Leviticus and Numbers and Deuteronomy. Those are the first 5 books. And then Joshua is the very next book outside of that. So it's not considered part of the Torah, but it's still obviously part of the Hebrew Scriptures. So our promise verse is going to be verse 8 of Joshua 1. But I'm going to read starting with verse 1, and I'll probably go a little bit past verse 8, just because it's good stuff in here, and it's good to talk about, and our promise is obviously a great one too, and when we get to that, we'll talk about it. So verse 1 of the book of Joshua, chapter 1. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' assistant, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise, go over this Jordan, you and all this people, into the land that I am giving to them, to the people of Israel. So I'll stop here just to say that you notice here that Joshua was spoken to by God. And that might be another misconception some people have, that maybe Moses elected Joshua because he was his assistant and he was the next one that Moses had raised up, but no, it's God. God spoke to Joshua, God picked Joshua. It's all about communication, this direct communication between God and Joshua, and that's what gets Joshua picked to be the next leader of the Israelites, the one that's going to bring them over the Jordan now into the promised land of Canaan. Okay, and there we're going to be now on verse number 3. Every place that the sole of your feet will tread upon, I have given to you, just as I promised Moses. So all the promises that God gave to Moses to conquer, to live in, to dwell in, this promised land, it's all transferring right to Joshua. From the wilderness and this Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, to the great sea, towards the going down of the sun, shall be your territory, right? So the sun sets in the west, so he's talking about the breadth of this from the great sea of Euphrates all the way to the west, really to the seashore, up and down. All this land is going to be given to Israel. It's a much bigger bit of land than Israel has now, just so you know. All promised to be given to Israel at Joshua's command, at Joshua's leading. No man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life, just as was with Moses, so will be with you. I will not leave you or forsake you. So nobody's coming up against Joshua. He's just as important as Moses, which you don't hear about Joshua as much, but it's good to know. To God, he was just like Moses as far as God promising to never leave Joshua, be with him through everything, all through his life, all the days of his life. He'll never forsake Joshua. So that's pretty great just to know how special Joshua was to Moses, to God as well. Now verse 6. Be strong and courageous, for you shall cause this people to inherit the land that I swore to their fathers to give them. So this is all on Joshua's shoulders. He's the one that's going to take them into the land that was promised not just to Moses, but to Abraham, way back to the first forefather of Israel. This land had been promised to them. And here it's Joshua who has the great task of bringing him into this land that God had promised them in the Abrahamic covenant, he's the one to fulfill that part of the promise for God. So it's a pretty high calling. And God is saying, be strong and courageous, because there are people dwelling in the land, just so you know. It's not empty. There's some people in there. You saw some of their names, the Hittites in there. So it's going to be that they're going to have to conquer some people who are in there. So it's no little thing that God's saying that he's going to be with Joshua, never forsake him. He's going to allow every place that for Joshua's foot to step to become conquered by Israel. That's a pretty great promise to Joshua, that God is going to not only be with him, but be with him in the taking over of Canaan and the defeat of all the people that are there originally. Now, 7, only be strong and very courageous, being careful to do according to all the law of Moses, my servant, commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, that you might have good success wherever you go. Now you start to see the conditional promise coming forward. Follow what I say, and good things are going to happen to you in the land, right? The Mosaic covenant was conditional. If you follow the commandments of God, then you will be blessed in the promised land. And here's God saying this directly to Joshua. Don't turn away. Don't go from the right. Don't go to the left. Follow everything I've said, just like Moses taught you. Don't do anything else other than what I taught you, and things are going to be good. You're going to have good success wherever you go. Now here's our promise verse. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to all that is written in it, for then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. So this book of the law, that's talking about the books of the Torah that were given to Moses. Now Moses is known to have written all the books of the Torah, the Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, Numbers. But when you see this book of the law, God is probably talking mainly about Exodus and then Deuteronomy and Numbers, which is really where the laws of God are contained. The Mosaic covenant is contained. And God is saying to Joshua, the book of the law shall not depart from his mouth. So he's speaking it also to the people. He's reminding the people, not just himself. And he, Joshua, shall meditate on it day and night. So now we're talking about, this is what you're ruminating on. This is what you're thinking about all the time, the law, so that you might be careful to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous when you have good success. Then you will have good success. So this is that if-then part of the Mosaic covenant. It's based on them, in this case, Joshua, doing something, keeping the commandments. And God is saying, meditate on them. They should not leave your lips. Study them. Be invested in this, because it's up to you to make the way into Israel, and when you're in Israel, the promised land, to make it prosperous and good. God has laid out in the book of Deuteronomy that there are blessings for for watching yourself and following the commandments, and there are curses. And so all of that is what God is saying. Study this. You need to know what great, wonderful blessings are coming for you if you follow the commands of God that were given. Leviticus, Exodus, Deuteronomy, Numbers. There's lots to be done. Some people have counted it up to be 613 commands, laws, all given so that they would be protected and prosperous in the promised land. And God wants Joshua to speak about them and to know them, to meditate on them. And it's just good spiritual advice to anybody, honestly. This promise verse of us. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. So you spiritually have part in your own prosperity and success. If you follow what God has said in His words, His Bible, His laws, if you want to look at it that way, if you follow, I'm not talking about the Old Testament. I'm not talking about the Mosaic covenant, which has a whole lot of Levitical laws, sacrifices. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the general laws, mainly headed up by love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love other people as you love yourself. That's what Jesus said were the two most important commandments. So if you follow that one, and then you follow the big 10, don't lie, don't steal, don't commit adultery, don't be covetous, don't dishonor your mother and father. Again, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and strength. Don't make false idols. Don't swear false witness. Don't lie in court. Those are the ones, I think I got all of them. Maybe not. But anyway, those are the ones God is saying, listen, hold on to these. Think about it. Do them, and you will make your way prosperous. You have a part in this. If you follow those main things and love the Lord your God before everything else and love others as you love yourself, you have a really high degree of success coming your way in the fact that you're not going to train wreck your own life. Now, it doesn't mean that bad things are not going to happen from the outside. But if you don't lie and you don't steal and you don't bear false witness and you don't covet other things and you don't dishonor your family and to keep the Sabbath, that's the other one I forgot. If you rest, when God says rest, if you follow the Lord and you love other people like you love yourself, you've got a really good chance of you not wrecking yourself. Now, again, things might happen from the outside that come your way, but it won't be at your hand. That's what God is saying. God is going to be with you. He's not going to forsake you. If you're a Christ follower, if you're somebody who claims Jesus as your Lord and Savior and doesn't just do it with lip service, if you actually follow the Lord, this promise goes your way in a spiritual way. Obviously, this promise is to Joshua, to the Israelites, but the background of it, the spiritual nature of it, you can hold on to that too, that following God and what He says is for your good, and if you do it, then prosperity, not in monetary terms, but just doing well for yourself, not train wrecking yourself, as I said earlier. That's what I mean about prospering. It has nothing to do with money. It just means about doing well, leading your family well, if you think about it that way, doing well at work, or doing well as a student. If you follow the ways of God, you'll just do well, and you'll stand out, which is part of what God wanted for the Israelites. He wanted them to stand out as different from these Gentile nations that were doing all kinds of heinous things, including baby sacrifice. He wanted them to stand out, and He wanted them to be prosperous so that other nations would look at them and say, wow, there's something different about them, and it seems like there's somebody they're following, this God that they say that they're following, that seems to be blessing them. And with that, it's God's hope that people, these other nations, these pagan nations would turn and say, I want to follow that God. And it's the same with us. When you follow the commandments of God, do what He says, you set yourself apart. You're sanctified, you're holy, you're set apart, and people notice it. And hopefully they do. I mean, if they're not noticing there's something different about you, that you're different from the world, then you might question yourself about this. Am I following the commandments? Am I taking them seriously? Am I following God? Do I love God? Am I truly saved? Am I truly born again of the Spirit of God, which should be leading me to follow these commandments? Because if you don't look different from the world, if you're, cursing and getting drunk and doing all kinds of things that make you look just like everybody else, I'm not saying that, I don't want to make people feel bad who do that, but if you're just following suit, if you're blasting people on Facebook, if you're not forgiving and tender and merciful and graceful and kind and giving, if you're not doing things that make you look more and more like Jesus, then you're blending in with the world, and that is not what God has for His people. It's not what He had for the Israelites, and it's not what He has for us as children of God who have been indwelled with the Holy Spirit, who should be making us look more and more like Jesus. So if you're not looking more and more like Jesus, you feel like you're the exact same person that you were before you decided to follow Jesus, start to question yourself a little bit about it. What am I doing? Am I still in sin? Am I not praying? What is it that's keeping me from looking different, acting different? There's really good questions to ask yourself. I hope that you ask yourself those things. If you confess or you're saying you're a Christian, well, okay, are you a Christ follower is what I would ask. Christian, everybody's a Christian. Everybody, their mom, their dad, their grandma, whatever, believed in Jesus, and so they believe in Jesus too. But I'm talking about Christ following, what we just read, following these commandments, following Jesus. That's where the rubber meets the road. So let me just finish it. So it says, verse 9 says, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened, and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." So I hope that you see that God also is promising things here. He's promising if you follow through, he's going to be with you. And he's saying be strong and courageous because it's not easy. I mean, nobody says it's easy to be a Christ follower. There will be persecution. There will be people that think you're idiotic and moronic for believing in this book and doing things differently. If you've decided to not have sex before marriage or to you believe in only a man and a woman can be married or whatever else that makes you stand out from the culture, people are going to think you're a moron. They're going to think that you're following a fairy tale. And that's what comes with it. But here we have God saying, be strong and courageous. Be very strong and courageous. Stick with it because you will be blessed. The blessings that come to people who follow Christ are innumerable, not the least of which is that you get heaven. You get your sin wiped away and you get to be in heaven. That's the greatest blessing of them all. But there's many, many other things like this promise that if you follow him, follow his commandments, you will not train wreck yourself on this earth. And the obviously promise in there that God is going to be with you. He's not going to forsake you. If you don't slide into sin and start following your own ways and your own commandments, being sinful, if you don't do that, then God promises to stick with you through no matter what you're going through. So it's a great promise here, a promise to the Israelites, but you can see the spiritual side of it, and you can see now, hopefully you see how important Joshua was to God's mission on the planet. And just to give you the end of the story, Joshua does lead them into the promised land. And there's a great part in the book of Joshua where he makes the people, God tells him to speak out the commandments in Deuteronomy, the commandments, the blessings and the curses on either side of this valley. And they're speaking it, and you can just imagine the echo. So all of Israel, the millions of people hear these blessings and curses that are waiting for them if they do what God says. Obviously the blessings come their way. So anyway, Joshua, great guy, great leader. That's why there's so many people named Joshua today. So anyway, we'll see you next time. Bye now.